This scholarship webinar is designed to help high school students and parents better understand the opportunities available and how to successfully navigate the scholarship process. We hope you leave with helpful information, practical tips, and greater confidence as you plan for the next step in your educational journey. Thank you to our scholarship committee and to Tamika Ruffin for lending your expertise. And thank each of you for being here with us this evening. I will now turn it over to Tanger Young, who will introduce Miss Ruffin. Enjoy your evening.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Tandra Young, co-chair of the Scholarship Committee, and it's my job tonight to kind of introduce our speaker. To some, but most, Miss Ruffer is not a stranger to our chapter. She has done numerous workshops for us in the past, I think probably the last 4 years for us, and she never said no to us. So just give you a little bit background on Miss Ruffer. She's the the outreach director of the Southwest section of College Foundation, which covered the 704 and 980 territory in um, the Charlotte area and surrounding counties. She received her bachelor degree from the University of North Carolina and at Charlotte, and her master from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro in higher education. She has worked for the foundation, I think about 17 years now, or maybe longer. she can correct me, and and she has worked in different public and private institutions in financial aid, admission, and resident life. She is also a member of NACASPA, which we call in financial aid the National Association, North Carolina of Financial Aid Administrator. She conduct presentation, training, and financial literacy, and show you how to plan and apply for college to students. So without any further, I'm going to let my colleague, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Ruffer.
Thank you, Tanger. And I'm going to start sharing my screen now so you guys can so we can get started here and start talking about some really good information. Again, my name is Tamika. I do work for CF&C. Hopefully you're familiar with CF&C, but if you're not, definitely go to the website after this evening and visit all the free information that you can get about getting ready for college. We are always trying to make sure that people, our students and families, especially here in North Carolina, have information about getting ready for college. So whether or not it's the planning side, the applying side, or even the paying side, you'll definitely want to visit our site. This is actually, so we're going on about year 20 for me, which is hard for me to even say that, but it is about 20 years that I've been with CF&C. And so I'm just really happy to be here to kind of share information with you tonight. So one of the things that I do like is just to make sure everybody is sort of on the same page as far as what you're looking at paying for when it comes to college. Obviously, you guys are choosing your own route or what journey you want to take. So maybe you think about 2 year, maybe you're thinking about 4 year. But I do always like to start here because I do want to make sure everybody's clear on why we're talking about this side of college because it's so important. So the first four items that are up here are the items you're going to get a bill for. So for me, they're the most important. So if there's nothing else that I know about a school, I need to know how much it is to be a full-time student there for my classes and my fees. So whether or not I'm going to a 2 year or 4 year college, I need to know what those expenses are. And then the other expenses are I'm looking at, of course, are my housing and meals if I'm planning to live on campus at a 4 year college. So again, these are the most important. So if you are a senior student or parent, you know that you will be getting a bill shortly from a college. And the college will either be billing you for the classes if it's a 2 year school, if you're commuting to a 4 year college. But if your student's living on campus, it'll be for those first four items there. And the bills are usually due prior to classes starting. And then the other expenses that you want to kind of keep in mind as you're thinking about the whole college process is obviously most colleges you do have to purchase books for class. So making sure that you understand the average cost for books. Most colleges have their sort of estimated cost of attendance on their website. it's a little bit harder to find because they have so many great things going on at their college. So I usually tell families when you go to a college's website, just type in the search bar, just type in cost of attendance. And they usually will have a breakdown of their cost of attendance. They'll let you know how much it would be if you're planning to live on campus or planning to live off campus. And they usually have on there sort of an average cost of what students are spending for books and supplies at their particular school on average per year. They also have on there transportation costs. So they usually have on there what students are spending for parking. So a lot of times, especially at the four-year college, you usually have to purchase a parking permit if you're living or driving a car on campus. And so usually they'll let you know how much their parking is. I do tell families, a lot of families today, it is different than what it used to be because a lot of colleges now, you really don't even need a car to be away at college anymore. There are lots of Ubers and Lyft options. There are colleges that give students the opportunity to rent bikes and scooters. So if they want to get around sort of that town or city close by, they can rent bikes or scooters to do that. But again, there are so many options to get around now that you don't necessarily need a car. So as you're visiting colleges, you do want to look to see how close things are. How close is it to get to certain stores nearby? Because again, a lot of students are sharing rides and making that happen without having to have a car. Then the other thing is going to be personal and miscellaneous things. And these are things that you just need to live with. I always tell families, it's like as a parent, it's like maintaining two households. So the student needs to live as if they were living at home. All the stuff that they would use for the bathroom, all the stuff they would use for the laundry, all of those things they need if they're planning to live on a four-year college campus. And again, when you go to a college's website and search their cost of attendance, they also have on average how much their students are typically spending for personal, miscellaneous, or just living expenses for a year so that you don't have to guess that amount. And then at all the four-year colleges, they do require that if you're living on campus, you have to be covered under some type of health insurance. And so this is just if you have health insurance, you'll just show proof of that at the time that they ask for it. If you don't, the college does have a health insurance plan for you to purchase so that your student can live on campus. So just again, keep that in mind as you're thinking about, on-campus living expenses. But all of these things are sort of the things you want to keep in mind when it comes to like, what are we trying to make sure we have enough money for? Remember, priority, direct cost, those are the ones you're going to get the bill for, but these other items you still want to keep in mind because you'll need them throughout the year. This is kind of what the average cost for most of the colleges here in North Carolina. We have like 16 public colleges here in our state, and on average, they're around $24,000 a year. This is for a student to be living on campus and for a meal plan and all of the living expenses that I talked about. Community colleges on average are about $5,000 a year. But again, it really depends on how many classes they're taking. It's of course the most affordable option. So we always tell people to consider the community colleges they're thinking about things. And then of course, private colleges, we have 30, 35, 36, depending on the day, private colleges here in our state. And on average, they're about 47, but they can definitely go a little bit higher than that. Our most expensive private college, especially here in North Carolina, is about $85,000 to $90,000 per year. The average cost is about 47. So private colleges are good though to consider because they do offer private funding or private scholarship opportunities. So they're state colleges, they're state funded, so there's only so much money they can get through the state to help assist you to come to college, whereas private colleges are privately funded. And so they're able to sometimes offer students offers to come to their school that you would be surprised. So I always say, consider all of your options. Don't necessarily look at the price tag of a school. You'd be surprised at what a lot of these private colleges can offer you to attend their school when it comes to scholarship money. So if your student's looking for that, also offers them a smaller environment. The private colleges, there's probably on average about 10,000 students or less, where at the state schools, there's probably 30,000 students or more. So it gives them a smaller environment as well. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about this. And then I always say when it comes to finding money for college, I do like for people to start with probably the most important form, which is sort of the foundation for it all, so that you can get an offer from a school is for them to complete the FAFSA. And it's the free application for federal student aid. It is the application that students fill out in order to get an offer from a college. So this is like step one in getting money from a college or for college. This is a form that's used across the US. So basically, everybody comes to this website. They apply for the financial aid, they do the financial aid application, and then they are considered for different types of money. And the reason why I like it is because you're being considered for different types of money, right? You're being considered for federal money, you're being considered for state money, meaning the state that you are a resident of, and you're also being considered for money through that particular college. So you're doing one form and you could be considered for three different sources of money. And so I always say to start here. This is the website to go to fill it out. You can also get information just about the form on the site. So if you are not a senior student or not close yet, studentaid.gov is great to get prepared to do this application. But it actually opens up every October 1st. So for seniors in high school, the earliest that you can do it is October 1st of the senior year. So if you're not a senior yet, you can't actually do the form until October 1st of your senior year, but you can go to the website again and just get information about the federal programs and what's offered through this form. Now, what you need to fill it out, it is one of those forms that's a little bit different in the application process in the sense that most of the college applications, all of the things that students do, they typically have to, they're just doing it themselves. So they create a login, they fill out an application for a college, they're applying for a scholarship separately with their information. With this particular form, they actually need their parent information to do this. And so this is one of the forms they'll need for college where they have to get parent information. So one of the main things that's required, what's needed for this application, is that they're always going to look at the income from the prior year. So that means that seniors this year, we're using 2024 income information because at the beginning of the senior year, it was 2025, right? So they're using their 2024 income information. For juniors that are going to be seniors next year, parents, that means that you'll be using your income information from 2025, right? Which would mean the tax season that we're going through right now is the information that's required on here. So it's always based off of the prior year. The other thing is that, remember, like I said, for every website, you have to create a username and password. So the student creates a username and password so that they can do the student section. And then they also require that at least one of the parents in the home creates a username and password or student aid account so that they can fill out the parent section of the application. So there are two separate sections, and there is a username and password that's required for each section. So two separate accounts have to be created. Now, this is something you could do early if you wanted to, but if you're one of those people that never remembers username and passwords, do not do it early. Wait until you are about to do the application. Because you can create a username and password or an account the same day that you fill it out. But if you're a junior parent student and you want to do something now, sure, you can go ahead and create an account for the website. And again, a student creates their own and the parent creates their own. But you can do that if you're good with keeping up with username and passwords. And then they also need valid email addresses for this website. So they'll ask the student for a valid email and also the parent. They have to be two different email addresses. And then the student will need a social security number or valid visa status in order to do this application. So as long as the student has a social security number or valid visa status, they can fill it out. The parent does not need to have a social security number, but the student does. And then these on the side, you're able to see what the valid sort of visa statuses are. They're also located again on the student aid website. So you have to try to memorize these. But I just wanted to kind of let you know that that's also a requirement. But these are the main things that you need to fill it out. Again, starting October 1st of the senior year. Now, one of the questions that we get a lot is, can a student do this application without a parent? They're very aware that there are lots of different family situations and family dynamics that are different. And so in the student section, they will ask the student some questions. And if the student is able to answer one of the questions that they ask, which this is showing you sort of an example of that page where they ask students questions. If a student is able to answer this question, then they can do it without a parent. But the general rule is if they're under the age of 24, they have to have parent information on that FAFSA application. But I just wanted to show you they definitely have, exceptions to the rule because they understand that there are different, family dynamics. So if a student is able to answer one of these scenarios, they can do it without a parent. And then the other big question I get, especially with forms that require parent information, because, everybody's family is different. And so parents and students want to know what parents' information needs to be on it. If there are two parents in the home, then yes, they're going to want two parents' income information. But let's say I just live with my mother, either because my parents were never married or they are separated or divorced. Then if that's the case, and I'm going to put the parent that has provided the most financial support to me in the last 12 months. But let's say that my parent that I'm living with, they got married. So I'm living with my mom and she got married. And now I have to include my step parent. So it's either two biological or adopted parents, a single parent or a parent and a step parent. They do have a sort of parent tool on the website. So, you don't have to memorize that, but they do have a parent tool. So when it comes to the parent section, they do have a tool that you can answer some questions and they'll tell you which parent information is required. But I wanted to kind of answer that question because I know that people are wondering about that a lot when they have different households. And then the other thing that's important to know about this form is that the way that the colleges get it is that they ask you, there's a section within the student section that asks, what colleges would you like to have this information sent to? And you can send it to up to 20 different colleges. So that's how colleges get the information. So again, you're doing one application starting October of the senior year. They ask you what colleges do you want to have it sent to, and you can list up to 20. And then they'll send a copy of the application to all of those colleges. If it's a community college, of course, they'll process the application once you've done the application for the community college. With the four-year colleges, you do have to have been admitted before you actually get an offer. You do not have to have been admitted to actually submit this form and put that school on there, but you do have to have been admitted before the school can give you an offer based off of this application. So that means if I'm starting this form in October of my senior year, maybe I'm still doing my admissions applications. Maybe I'm still working on applying to college. I can still submit this form if I know what colleges that I'm going to apply to or thinking about applying to. And then again, I'll get the offer from the ones that I've actually gotten admitted to. So I want to be clear on that. And then at the end of it, you'll get a summary. So I always like to show this because sometimes it's good to know, like, you may do it in October. A college may send you an offer later on in the school year. You don't even remember what you put on the form, right? So you have a summary of all the information that was on your application that'll be emailed to the student at the end. And then the student can also log onto the student aid website and see it as well. So once you basically, you'll get a summary of what you actually submit. And then this is just to understand why I like this form to be the foundation of it all, because you are being considered for not only different resources or places that you can get the money, but different types of money. So you are being considered for scholarships through this process. So I know that some of your students, I'm hoping that you are still applying for, individual scholarships, which we'll talk about in just a second. But there are scholarships that you're being considered for through this process. You're also being considered for grants. Grants are like scholarships. You don't have to pay the money back, but it does look at your family's income. So it relies very heavily on your family's financial need for you to get a grant, but you are being considered for that. Everybody gets considered for it at least. And then you're also being considered for work study, which is like a part-time job. So there are colleges that do offer students an opportunity to earn some money while they're in school, and they call it work study. And then students are also being considered for loans, which of course are things that are used to help assist you with the process. So these are all the things that you're being considered for, again, by filling out the FAFSA, which is why it's sort of the foundation. There are some scholarships too that require that you have filled out the FAFSA because they want to make sure that you are being considered for all the money that you can for college. So this is why I always say this is step one when it comes to finding money for college. I also want to kind of make note, North Carolina does have some scholarship programs. They're a little unique. One of the scholarship programs that we started a couple of years ago is called the Next NC Scholarship. And this is for students who have a household income of $80,000 a year or less. So if my family income is $80,000 a year or less, the state will give me $3,000 to help pay for any community college. And they'll also give me $5,000 to help pay for my time at a public college or university. So all I have to complete is the FAFSA, which is again why it's so important, because this is one of the sort of scholarships you're being considered for by filling out the FAFSA. It's not based on grade point average. You don't have to write an essay. If you complete the FAFSA, and they see that you are a resident of North Carolina, you are being considered for this. And so just want to kind of make you aware of this. It's really important to know, because even if you don't qualify for it or think that you'll qualify, it's great to be able to let other people know that may be concerned about paying for college who do fit this criteria, right? Because it's a guarantee. It's not a they might get it. They will get this to help pay for college as long as they complete the FAFSA and meet the income criteria. So I just want to be sure that I mention this particular scholarship program that's offered through the state. We also have a scholarship program that's for students who are interested in attending any of our private colleges. So on the earlier, I showed you that we have about 35, 36 private colleges here in our state. And if you are going to apply or you apply to any of those private colleges, and you complete the FAFSA, again, which is sort of the foundation form, we'll consider you for this scholarship program. It's just for students that are going to a private college in our state. We give out a little bit of about 15,000 students receive money through this program every year. Again, it's not based on grade point average or test scores or essays. It's just about a student completing the FAFSA. And if you do that, you'll be considered for this scholarship program if you're applying to a private college in a state. The amounts of this scholarship do vary. It could be anywhere between $2,000 to up to about $10,000 per year that a student could get through this program to help pay for their time at a private college. So again, want to mention this one as one of sort of the progress scholarships that we're talking about that you're being considered for, especially through the state. And then another form that some students fill out to be considered for money to help pay for college is called a CSS profile. This application is not for all colleges, though. It's for very select colleges. There are some colleges that say they do want you to do the FAFSA, like all the colleges want you to complete the FAFSA, because again, that's sort of their foundation to start offering you money. But then there's some colleges also want you to fill out this CSS profile. It is just for select schools, though, and it's offered. There's colleges all across the U.S. that use this separate application. But in order to see what the colleges are, you can go to the college's website under their financial aid page, whatever colleges you're interested in. They'll have it listed under their financial aid section. But then you could also just go to College Board. They're the people that actually process this application. And so you can go to College Board. College Board are the people that do the SAT. So when you first go to the site, you'll see a lot of SAT stuff. But in the middle of the page, you'll see a little box that has CSS profile. You'll click on that and it'll open up a window that looks like this. And then you can click on the about the profile and it'll show you all the colleges in the US that offer this application. The difference between is very similar to the FAFSA. They do ask for parent information on here too. But the main difference between this one, again, is that it's just for select schools and they do charge a fee for this application at the end. I think I mentioned that the FAFSA stands for the free application for federal student aid. So the first F in FAFSA means that that form is free. This one does cost about $25 to submit. You're not required to do it, of course, but it's highly recommended if you see your college listed on here because you're being considered specifically for institutional scholarship money. We only have 5 colleges in North Carolina that even ask for this one. So we have over 110 colleges in North Carolina, but only 5 of them ask for this application. And so that's why it says just for select colleges. And so depending on where state you're thinking about going to college, hopefully it's here in North Carolina, you'll be able to look to see whether or not they also ask for the CSS profile. So again, go to the College Board website and they'll tell you the colleges that ask for it. This one also is not available until the senior year. So if you're not a senior yet, this application, you also have to wait until you're a senior to complete. It opens up October 1st, just like the FAFSA does. But it is an important form if your school is on the list. And then what the college tries to do is they try to give you an offer. And again, this is sort of the baseline. So the college is saying, okay, you filled out our financial forms. Now let's see what we can offer you. The other part that I want to mention to you is that colleges do have some scholarships that you have to apply for separately. So if you're trying to get a full scholarship through a college, maybe even a partial scholarship through a college, they typically require a separate application. There are some colleges that if you want to apply for their full scholarship, it's just by you applying to the school. But in most colleges, they do have it where you have to complete a separate application to apply for their larger full scholarships. So yes, you're being considered for, scholarships to their school by doing the FAFSA or the CSS profile. But I do want to make note that if you're trying to get a full scholarship or one of the largest scholarships, they do typically require a separate application. And so what the school does, if you've done all the applications that are needed, meaning you've applied to the college, you've been admitted, you completed your FAFSA and or that CSS profile if you need it, and you've applied for any scholarships that require a separate application. You've done all of that, and the college gives you an offer with everything that you've been offered to come to their school. And so this is just showing you a sample of what an offer may look like from a school based off of you having done all of those things. And so you get the option to accept or decline anything that you've been offered. I always just stress, of course, that you're looking to see what's money that's being given to you to help pay for school, and then what's money that you would have to pay back. When you do have sort of a balance that's left over, so let's say you've applied to the school, and this is just one of the offers the college has said, okay, this is what we can offer you to come here. Usually students wait until they get offers from all the schools, meaning they've added all the schools they want to get it. They've applied for any scholarship separately, and then they go on and they try to see who kind of gave us the best offer. They also do this to kind of also see where do they have a gap? Like, what else do I need to do? Am I going to have a balance that's left over? How am I going to cover that balance? So you'll see with this student, they applied to 3 different colleges. They got an offer because they filled out the FAFSA. So they got an offer to them. So again, this is the baseline. They got an offer through the college. And again, if they applied for any scholarship separately, it's included on here. And then the student just kind of takes the total amount that they were offered from all the colleges and they subtract it from how much they know it costs to go there a year. And then they say, okay, this is what we have left over, right? This is where we would need to kind of figure out how we're going to cover that remaining balance. I have 2 different bottom lines here. One of them is the student saying that they're going to accept everything that was offered to them by the college. So whether it was free money or loans or anything that they were offered, they accepted everything, right? This is what their balance would be that they would owe the school if they accepted everything. But let's say the student wanted to see what the offers would be if they didn't take out the student loans, for example. So then the student would say, well, this is how much we would have to come up with if we don't take out the student loans and we just accepted the free money that they offered us to come to their school. This is typically what it's like when you're applying to 4-year colleges. There's typically going to be a balance unless that student, of course, gets a full ride. A lot of times there is a little gap in between what it costs to go there and what you need to pay the bill. And so that's why the actual applying for separate scholarships is important. Remember, the baseline is filling out those forms the colleges need you to do, but then you also want to apply for or think about other options to help pay the bill. And one of the options that I like for high school students in particular to think about is we have a lot of students, of course, especially if you're not quite a senior yet, you have an opportunity to do this where you can take some advanced placement classes, which are the AP classes. There are high schools, some colleges offer IB, very similar to AP classes. But the purpose of them taking those classes, right, is that if they want to be able to get opportunity to get some college credit. So it could be an English advanced class. And if they make a certain score at the end of the year on a test, they're able to get some college credit. And some students choose that. We have a lot of students right now in high school that are choosing to do dual enrollment. So that means that they are taking classes while they're in high school. They're taking their regular high school classes, but then at the same time, they're also enrolling in some community college classes at the same time, which are college classes. And because they're a high school student, especially in North Carolina, they're able to get those classes for free. So a lot of students take advantage of that if they can handle that. And so we have dual enrollment as a big thing for a lot of students. And then we also have students, of course, that are attending early middle college high schools where they are doing exactly that. They are taking their classes. Their classes are normally at a community college campus, and they're taking their regular high school courses, but then they're also taking college courses as well. And so the whole curriculum is set up for them to do that. And the reason why I'm mentioning this as an option to you, because you have to be creative when it comes to this college process. Most people are still thinking very outdated in how you pay for college. Yes, we do hope a student gets a full scholarship. Yes, we do hope that. But if they don't, which is a lot of students, then what can you do to make this work without having to get a full scholarship and still not having to come out of pocket with a loan or anything else? And so one of the ways to do that is to give yourself a scholarship, and that's by taking college courses while you're in high school. I always try to remind people if you don't realize the value of getting a free college course, just go on those colleges' websites when I talked about the cost of attendance and look at and see exactly how much one class costs. At our public colleges here in North Carolina, one class is about $1,000. If I'm able to get that class for free in high school, I just gave myself $1,000 scholarship. That's $1,000 less I don't have to worry about when it comes to paying for college. So I do want you to think a little outside of the box as far as making this process work. We also have a lot of students who choose to go to the community college first and then transfer on to their four-year college. This is really big right now too. So a lot of students are thinking, I could save money for 2 years by attending my community college and taking my core classes at the community college and then transferring on to my four-year college. I showed you numbers before. To be a full-time student at the community college is about $5,000 to $6,000 per year, and compared to about $24,000 at a public college for the year, or about $46,000 a year to private college. Just saves a lot of money. What I do recommend, though, is if you are thinking about going to if you're thinking about going to a private college after your time for any of these things that you're taking, advanced placement, dual enrollment, early college, transferring. If you're planning to transfer or go to a four-year college next, which is a private college, you do want to ask them. Public colleges will accept all your credit. So whatever you take, wherever it is, the public colleges will accept that. Where it may be a question will be private colleges. And also if it's an out-of-state college, you do want to check with them to see what their rules are as far as accepting any kind of outside college credit. Because some colleges do have rules. Again, public colleges typically will accept whatever you take at the community college. Private college, and again, especially if it's another state, you do want to ask that college what their rule is about accepting any kind of college credit before they actually get there. But if you're good to go with that, I encourage you to think about that as a way to save money for college. And then obviously I do want students to be applying for scholarships. These are just some search engines to get you started. All of these websites do have apps as well for you to be able to apply for scholarships directly through their apps. So you can go to the App Store on your phone and just type in and search for scholarship apps. You could download scholarship apps to your phone. The other thing is that students, it continues to get better for you when it comes to searching for information. And so with AI, with Chat GPT, I would use it to my advantage. Like I play around with it all the time now just to see, and it's so much easier for you to be able to access information. Just ask ChatGPT, help me find scholarships for college. Maybe I'm thinking about going into engineering. Help me find engineering scholarships, right? Make it as specific as you need to, right? With those type of things, and the better the tool will be for you. So maybe I say, I'm a female, I'm a minority female looking for engineering scholarships for college. Help me find those. Like, so you can use AI and ChatGPT to do that. It's just not as complicated. And again, we have to kind of get away from how things used to be. It's so much easier to be able to do this without stressing about it. Everybody has access, equal access to the same information. And so use those tools that you have to be able to search for scholarship opportunities. You can also go to the websites. Again, they're going to lead you to websites, but you definitely want to use those tools as like a search engine. I still use Google. A lot of times, Google has the AI feature, but I still just use Google just to kind of search for scholarships. And I put in the same type of search tool. What am I looking for? I'm looking for, we'll stay with engineering. I'm looking for engineering scholarships. I type that into my search bar in Google. If they exist, they're going to come up. So don't make it complicated. It's really not that hard to do. I wish I had this opportunity. I wish it was this easy when I was applying to college. But you don't need to, I know sometimes people pay for information like this. You really don't need to, because there's so many free tools at your access. You can access on your phone or on your laptop. So use that, but these are some to get you started if you just want to, start out on some of the websites first before you do your own little searches. The other thing is I do like for people to start to stay organized with scholarship opportunities. There are lots of scholarships. That part is very true when people say that there's lots of scholarships that exist. There are, but you do have to be organized with it because you cannot remember all the dates that things are due. With the FAFSA and with college applications, there's a certain date they open, and then you have to have it done by a certain time. With individual scholarships, though, all of the scholarships are going to have a different deadline that they're due. There's not a universal, all scholarships in the world are due on this date. They all have a different date that they open, and they have a different date that they close. And so I like for students and parents to create some type of spreadsheet. This is just a Google Doc. It could be Excel if you feel more comfortable on that platform. But you can just create a spreadsheet, and literally I'm copying and pasting everything. It's not like I'm creating anything. Only thing I created here were like columns. So what I thought was important for me to know. So you can put as many columns that you want to know about the scholarships. When you open a scholarship, it's going to tell you everything you need to know, what the requirements are, when it's due, when the application opens. All you have to do is click on the scholarship application. But this is just to show you write down the name of the scholarship. You definitely want a column for that. You want to just copy and paste URLs to put in here. When is it open? You need to know that. So when is it open? Can I apply as a junior? Do I have to wait as a senior? I was doing this for a senior relative of mine. So when I said open now, that means that this student was a senior, meaning they could apply now. But if you are a freshman, sophomore, junior, then you would put the actual date that you could start applying, senior year, this day. Like if you can't apply prior to that, which most of them you do have to be a senior in order to apply, but you can, put that there. Do they need to be nominated? There are some scholarships where students do have to be nominated. They can't just apply for the scholarship. Either they have to be nominated by somebody at their high school, or they have to be nominated by somebody. If it's a community organization, they have to have been nominated by somebody in that organization. And so it'll tell you whether or not it's nomination only or if they can apply. And you'll see that if you want to keep up with that. And then one of the more important things I want to know is, when is it due? Like, when is this application due? And when do I have to get it done by? This is important because, especially if you have a little bit of time before you're a senior, you want to start organizing all the scholarships that you find through apps, through doing searches on your own, maybe at your high school if they're listing different scholarship opportunities from the college. You want to be able to put the date that they're due. So senior year, there's no guessing in this, right? Again, this is a relative of mine. So I was telling them, you can't play around as soon as school start. These have to be done, right? By the end of September, which is usually really the first full month they're in school. This has to be done by then. You have a little bit more time to do these other ones, but these, they have to be done early. And that's the reason why I think the deadline one is so important, because again, you'll miss You'll miss dates otherwise. You can also put if there's an essay required, if that's important. Do you have to have a recommendation letter? And then a lot of times families want to know, keep in mind how much the scholarship is for. Like, if that's important as you're adding up how much money they need to help pay for college. So again, you could play around with your own sort of format. I just wanted to kind of show you this as an example. It's not really anything special. It's just a spreadsheet. And again, if you're not familiar with how to do one or how to start one, go to Google and type up how to create an Excel or a Google Doc. There's probably a video out there, for a YouTube video for about a minute or 2 minutes that explains, but it's literally just typing in the columns, right? And then I organized the whole spreadsheet by the column that I thought was most important, which to me was the deadline. So that's something that you can keep in mind. And then, of course, the college is going to give you other options if you don't find scholarships, if you're not looking for those opportunities. The colleges will give you options to help pay the bills. So I just wanted to show you some of the other options that the colleges will give you to help pay for your time there. Obviously, they'll accept all forms of payment. They also have payment plans that you can be put on to pay off that bill for that year. And then there are also private loan options that they'll kind of mention to you if you need more money. The scholarships are really what fills the gap for a lot of students, so that they don't have to look at other options, right? Scholarship season is when school starts, as you saw on the spreadsheet before, and this is really half of the spreadsheet, but it's from when school starts till when it ends. There's scholarship opportunities from that long. So whenever students are like, I'm done with all my stuff, you're never done with all your stuff when it comes to applying for scholarships. There are always other opportunities that you can search for and put on this list so you can apply for them. So if you have a senior right now, that's what they should be doing is applying for scholarships and researching for scholarship opportunities because you're going to get those bills soon. Right. And I do want you to have an option to be able to pay it. The college will also offer an option for a parent to take out a loan to help pay the balance. So I did want to mention that they will offer a loan option for parents if there is a balance that's due to the college. And I do want to mention that, if, of course, this webinar is about it's been offered to you here, and the state does do webinars throughout the year on getting ready for college, on every topic about get ready for college. So if you haven't checked out any of our free statewide webinars, definitely go to our cfnc.org/events page and sign up for any webinars. We don't have any at this second. We've done a lot of them. We will have a little bit more coming up for juniors, and we have some about finding majors, because that's really the most important part before you start figuring out what you want to go to college for. So we do have them in March. We have some coming up about finding majors and careers. So definitely visit our website to sign up for some free webinars, and definitely stay connected. We're on all the social media platforms, and also go to our YouTube channel. We've recorded all the webinars that we've done this year. So all the college webinars that we've done this year, if you want to see them or see some of the topics, you can go there. It's College for North Carolina is how to find us on YouTube, and it'll have all the recorded webinars for this year. So I want to make sure you're there, and definitely sign up for our emails if you just want to get some college updates. You're welcome to do that too. But that's all the information I have for you for this. I will see if there are any questions or anything somebody wanted to ask, or anybody wanted to ask about anything.
No one have any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
When you're filling out financial aid, if you have two students that go into college at the same time, because I have twins, how does that work when you're trying to apply for financial aid when they're going off based off your income?
Yeah, now can anybody else, if anybody wants to answer too, you'll feel each student has to do their own FAFSA application. So they will both create an account and do their own application. Both of them would require your information on it. They do ask on the form, how many people will be in college at one time. So they do ask that on the application. But yeah, each student would do their own form, and then you would just answer the question of how many students will be in college at one time on each form.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Can I just piggyback on Ms. Ruffin right quick? Just unless Tamika, you want to tell the new changes that come about have from the bit beautiful bill
Mhm.
has a
I'll let
July
you. I'll
1st.
let you talk about
Okay.
it. You talk
Okay.
about it.
Okay, so I don't know how many is online that have um a child in college now, but starting July 1st, there's gonna be some changes. As for the Pell Grant, the Pell Grant now is based on what we used to call back in the day used to be EFC that been replaced with now SAI. So that's still based on your income, the FAFSA application. So if your income ranging around $14,467, I believe, I don't know I know it's 14,000 something, that you might not no longer be eligible for Pell Grant has a July 1st. Also, for a graduate, if you're a grad student or have someone in grad school, before there was a limit on student loans that a grad student could receive direct loan up to a total of $138,500 lifetime limit. Now that a grad student can only receive $20,500 per year, and the lifetime limit now would be $100,000. So that's for the whole time period that that student is in grad school if they take out a loan. As for the Parent Plus loan, if you had to take out a Parent Plus loan for your child, you usually could take up to the max, all the way up to whatever the total cost of tuition fees. Starting July 1st, you can only take out $20,000 per child for that Parent Plus loan, which means the lifetime limit over 4 year can only reach up to $65,000. So you might just want to think about when you decide if you have to take out that Parent Plus loan, you might want to take out no more than $15,000 per year so that you make sure out of the 4 years, if it takes 4 years for your child to finish school, to make sure you max up to that amount of $65,000 for the 4 year time. And if you're a grad student and your child grad and you need to take out a grad plus loan, that will no longer exist as of July 1st. So there will be no more grad plus loan. So just want everyone just be aware of the changes because we are sharing those with our student and parents. Across the board, a lot of schools has started making flyers, sending communication out to their student and parent, and to inform them of all the new changes that will come about. And also, the Pell Grant, you might want to just make sure if your child is eligible for Pell Grant, to make sure they are registered for at least 15 credit hour per semester, because if they take less than 15 credit hours, the Pell Grant will be prorated. So that's something new. Before it was 12 credit hours, but now they are going to require 15 credit hours. And if not less than 15 credit hours, the Pell will be prorated.
That's great, Ting. I was just going to say that's why it's so important to think about options to cut that college experience down while you're in high school, right? Either by
Right.
doing the cheaper options of getting college credit while you're in high school, doing the transfer option. There's different ways to still get around it, even though they are definitely making some changes to how much you can get per year for your colleges. There are different ways. Again, remember that you can start the process earlier.
Well, if there are no more questions, thank you so much, Tamika, for being willing to do this for us every year. We greatly appreciate it. Also, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. I just wanted to remind everybody that our scholarships are open for Concord alumni, and the deadline is April 1st. We have 3 scholarships, well, 3 types of scholarships: the Concord Alumni Excellence Scholarship, the Peggy Freeman Fleming Needs-Based Scholarship, and the Arts and Letters Scholarship. And so you can use the same application to apply for those. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat to the application. And I thank you all for coming out to support the scholarship program. And if there are no more questions, we will close for the evening. Thank you very much. And I'm dropping the link in the chat now for the scholarship. Thank you very much.